Today's lesson will be an introduction on parallel lines and transversals, and we're really going to focus on our vocabulary today. In this image, you will notice that I have one set of parallel lines here, which are being cut or intersected by the transversal, which is this line. Now, when you have a set of parallel lines cut or intersected by a transversal, you will create 8 angles. Now, it's the relationships between these 8 angles that we are going to focus on. All right, so let's talk about exterior angles. Exterior means that we are going to have angles on the outside of the parallel lines. So, for example, 1 and 2, 8 and 7 are my exterior angles because they are outside of the 2 parallel lines. Similarly, there are 4 angles that are on the interior or inside or between the 2 parallel lines. Those angles are 3 and 4, 6 and 5. And they are interior angles because they are on the inside or between the parallel lines. So here we're going to put 2 vocabulary words together. Alternate means on either side of the transversal, and of course exterior is outside of the parallel line. So I have angle 2 as an exterior angle. I'm looking for another exterior angle that would be alternating or on the other side of the transversal. So 2 and 8 are both exterior angles. They are on either side or opposite sides of the transversal. They are alternate exterior angles. Now this pair has an interesting relationship. They are actually congruent to each other. So if you could imagine splitting my diagram in half and rotating the bottom 5, 6, 7, 8, placing it directly on top of the 1, 2, 3, 4, you would see that 2 and 8 would be one on top of the other and exactly equal to each other. I have one more set of alternate exterior angles in this diagram. I have angle 1 on the outside of the parallel line. I have angle 7 on the outside of the parallel line. And they are alternates. They are on either or opposite sides of the transversal. Again, alternate exterior angles are equal to one another. So now we're going to look at alternate interior angles. The same thinking applies here, except instead of being outside the parallel lines, these alternate angles will be inside the parallel lines. So I have 3 and 5 inside the parallel lines, yet on opposite or alternate sides of the transversal. And I have 4 and 6 as alternate interior angles. 4 and 6 are equal to each other. 3 and 5 are equal to each other. Let's talk about corresponding angles. So we could pretend that my diagram was cut in half. And I could take this bottom section and I could move it up or translate it up so that it would lie directly on top of the top section. If I did that, I would have some angles that would be exactly the same measurement. They would be corresponding and congruent. So in this diagram, I have angle 1 and angle 5 that are corresponding and equal. I have 2 and 6 that are corresponding and equal. And I have 4 and 8 that are corresponding and equal. And that leaves 3 and 7 corresponding and equal. Let's go ahead and talk about adjacent and supplementary angles. The word adjacent means that something is side by side or close to or near or touching. So if you think about it in that way, I have a couple of angles that are near each other, touching side by side. So for example, angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent, but so are 7 and 6. Not only are these pairs adjacent, but if you look at them carefully, you will notice that together they make a straight line. Together 6 and 7 make a straight line. They are supplementary. So I could say angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. They are adjacent, side by side, and supplementary. Together they make 180 degrees. Similarly, I can say angle 6 plus angle 7 equals 180 degrees. Not only are they adjacent, side by side, but they are supplementary. Together they make 180 degrees. Vertical angles, I like to think of them as opposite angles. They are on opposite sides of some diagonal lines. So for example, 2 and 4 are opposite from each other. Similarly, 1 and 3 are opposite of one another. Now, if I thought about my adjacent and my supplementary, I could figure out that when I add angles 1 and 2 together, I get 180 degrees. But I also get 180 degrees when I add 2 and 3 together. So let's think about that logically. If angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees, and angle 3 and angle 2 also equal 180 degrees, that means angle 1 and angle 3 must be the same amount. They are congruent. They are equal. So vertical angles are equal to one another. In this case, 1 equals 3 and 2 equals 4. In this lesson, we talked about several different sets of angles. We found out alternate exterior angles were angles on either or alternate sides of the transversal and outside of the parallel lines. What we found was that they were equal to each other. Alternate interior angles are also angles that are on alternate or opposite sides of the transversal, but this time they are inside the parallel lines and they are equal to each other. Corresponding angles are in the same position from top to bottom and they are equal to each other. Vertical angles are opposite of one another. We found they are equal to each other. The only set of angles that are not equal to each other are adjacent angles. Because they are side by side, they are supplementary, and together their sum equals 180 degrees.